Thanks for being here for our USU's Speech Language Pathology Open House. I think we can just start with introductions. Dr. Ukrainitz, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then Professor Meekum, and then maybe our students that are here with us can introduce themselves as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming, as Mason says, and this is our opportunity just for you to answer questions or ask us questions. We'll tell you a little bit about our graduate school program. We have several of our graduate students here, current students, so they can probably give you a better view of our program than we can. So I am the assistant department head for the department, and I am a director of the speech pathology program. I look after our accreditation requirements and curriculum and in the bigger picture of the overall graduate program. So I think that's my introduction to me. And my area of research is school age language intervention, and I was just rushing back from an elementary school where I had been doing some observations. So I'm back here now. So there's my intro. Professor Meekum.
I'm Jamie Meekum, and I'm an associate clinical professor and the director of the speech and language clinic here on campus. So I supervise grad students in the clinic.
And then I know we have Sophia.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Osted. I am a second year grad student in the SLP program, and I am part of the outreach program that Utah State does.
And we have Kirsten.
Hey, I'm Kirsten Ness. I am, I don't do any of the cool special programs. I'm just like a general grad student.
You are a second year campus student who's highly valued and who was our student representative last year.
True, true. Thank you, Dr. Ukrainitz.
And I'm Mason Hayes. I'm the graduate program coordinator for our grad programs. So, okay.
Okay, I think this one's mine. I was about to eat a bite of granola bar, but that's a bad idea if you've got to talk. So, program overview. What is special about USU? And then we have three programs, three different flavors of our one master's degree here. So what's special about USU? I'm not sure. I can't see how many of you are out there or how many of you are. Do we have anybody in the audience? And maybe Mason, you can track it. We can only see a few there who are not from Cache Valley or USU. Okay, so we've got Cadence right there. We got one anyway. So let me direct it to you in case there's more than you there too. So what's special about Utah State University? We are what's called a land grant university. And so that means that we, part of our, it's kind of complicated, but the main idea I want to transmit to you about us being a land grant is we're both a teaching university and a research university. So we're what's called a research one, or a research intensive university. We have some really amazing faculty, professors here who are at the very top of their fields who do multi-million dollar, multi-site research studies and projects. And then some of us may not do such big research, but we're still people who are scholars and researchers and trying to help advance the field. And at the same time, because we're a land grant university, teaching is very important for us. The university itself has to look after people all through the state, and you'll hear a little more about our outreach program. But we need to connect with people throughout the state, and we also need to be really good teachers, and that's very important. And so for a clinical program like this, where so much of it is about your clinical education, then the idea that you've got clinical instructors and professors who really care about teaching and for whom it's very important, then that's also a plus. So those are some special features of the research and the clinical side. And when you come here, Professor Meekum will be able to show you all the fabulous facilities we have. So another special feature is that however tough financial times are, this university is actually doing very well and has many resources, equipment and financial resources. So you really do get some special opportunities to when you're at this thriving university that's growing and is very dynamic. And then, of course, we're located in Cache Valley, right next to the Bear River Range. And so you've got mountains and the outdoors. Should you have time to take a break and get out, which you should take. Kirsten's laughing at that. Yes, you do. Occasionally, you should get out there and go into the mountains and play. We're not very good if you're want big city life, but we actually have theater and music and all kinds of things that you can see in cities too, as well as all the outdoor opportunities. So that's kind of an overview of what is special about USU. And we get 4 seasons and we get good snow in winter. You just have to figure out how to snowshoe or ski or something so you don't think it's a dreadful season. Then you'll enjoy winter as much as you enjoy summer and spring and fall. Okay, so there's our sales pitch to start with. So we do a master's in speech language pathology, and as Kirsten noted, the main body of students is in what's called the campus program. And so there's about 20 students in the campus program. And then we have about 5 students a year who, as Sophie mentioned, she's in the outreach program. And she'll be able to tell you a little more about that when we get down there. But it's basically an opportunity. We used to have a very generous state grant to help support us. And it's been chipped away and chipped away over the years. So unfortunately, Sophie doesn't get the vast amounts of money that the students used to get. But there is still some funding available for the outreach students, and they're people who are employed as speech language technicians, which outside of Utah are called speech language pathology assistants in school districts. And then their school district has an agreement with us and with the student that they'll support the student in their master's program. So those about half a dozen students work as speech language technicians in their school district at the same time as doing our master's program. And it's all done. They have synchronous coursework. So they're there with Kirsten's class in the campus room. I call them the wall people and the room people, as to whether they're on the wall cameras or they're in the room. So that you can do your master's in either way, and you end up graduating fully qualified to work across the range of ages and range of sites with the kind of training and the way that we set up our program for both outreach and campus. And then we have those LSL, which is listening and spoken language, and that's an extra kind of something notable about our program, although our outreach is part of a notable feature too. But the LISL students get additional training in the emphasis on children who are deaf or hearing impaired. Nowadays, you're going to get pretty much hearing aids, but you get quite a few cochlear implant kiddos. And so they get additional training and preparation so that when they graduate, they are well qualified, ideally qualified to go and work with populations that have deafness or hearing impairment with young children. And so that's additional work on top of your regular load as a campus student, but that is a special program and they have some opportunities there, and there is some funding available for those students. So that's basically what our 3 programs are, but all of them end with your master's in speech pathology. And I think later on I'll mention something about the 2 tracks that we do, but that's enough for that slide. Okay, this one's for Jamie. And now I'm going to eat my granola bar.
I have to unmute. It took me a minute to make my mouse work. So we have a beautiful clinic here on campus. If you have not seen it and you would like to see it, you should come over and give it a tour, whether you're from Utah State or if you would like to come and visit our beautiful campus. We're happy to show you around. We have relatively new building that houses interdisciplinary care clinics. So we have audiology, speech language pathology, marriage and family therapy, clinical rehabilitation counseling, psychology, nursing, and financial counseling all here in this building. So we really try and have a focus on interdisciplinary care and give our students an opportunity to really learn what it's like to work in an interdisciplinary team. We have our on-campus clinic is where you would typically do your first year of clinical clock hours. So we start at the beginning of June and we do summer, fall, and spring in the on-campus clinic. And you could see clients. We basically see clients from birth to death right now. Our youngest client is 14 months old and our oldest client is almost 90. So we are seeing clients across the spectrum of age and disorders. And we have the ability, we have a feeding clinic. We're doing some really exciting stuff with AAC, and we also have the ability to do FEES testing, so fiber optic endoscopic evaluation of swallows. We're the only place in the valley currently that can do a FEES study. So we have some really exciting things right here in the clinic. In terms of the questions that were asked, what are the placements offered for clinics? So for the first year, you do everything your first year here in our on-campus clinic. And if you pass all three of those semesters, then you get to move on in your second year to external placements. We do a school placement, so you'll do a student teaching placement for one semester, and then we do a full-time medical placement, which it could be really anywhere that you want to go. In that second year, you can do your placements anywhere. We have students right now in Washington and California and Pennsylvania. So you have an opportunity to go anywhere that you'd like to go. We do, like I said, school placement, a full-time medical placement, and then we do a part-time, what we call a specialty placement, which is something that you can decide what you may be a little bit more interested in. If you want to do something in early intervention, if you want to do something in skilled nursing or home health, there's a lot of different opportunities. How much in-person supervision is required? Well, ASHA only requires that you get 25% direct supervision from a supervisor. However, while you're here in the clinic, I think you could expect anywhere between 75 and 100% supervision by your supervisors. Some of that is determined by insurance companies who require 100% supervision, but most of it is just that we feel very strongly that that's how you're going to learn, is by having, a lot of supervision, a lot of feedback, and opportunities to practice. So you will very rarely be left alone. How intense is the program and the clinical practicum? Maybe we should let the students answer that. I don't think it's that intense compared to what I had to do a long time ago, but it is intense. You'll typically see for your first semester on campus, you'll see one client in the summer, and then we bump that up in the fall. You'll have 4 to 5 client contact hours in the fall and in the spring. So you can plan on, spending 4 to 5 hours a week in actual direct treatment with a client, which is how you get your clinical clock hours. We're hoping by the time you leave campus clinic at the end of that first year, you have about 100 of your 400 needed hours. And then you tend to get at least 100 hours in each of your external placements. And you also will come in with your 25 observation hours that count toward the 400. So that's how the clinical hours are fulfilled here in the on-campus clinic and then through 3 externships. Did I miss anything? There we go. What externship experience? We talked about this a little bit. So 3 externships, a school externship, which we consider it's like student teaching. You'll be in a school placement for 3 full days a week. A full-time medical, which is full-time for 8 to 12 weeks. So that kind of depends on where you're at and what the hours are. If the SLP at the hospital works 12-hour days, then you would work 12-hour days in order to get that experience of what it's like to be a full-time medical SLP, and then the part-time specialty externship, and that can be whatever you choose. Externship expectations and time commitments. Here's the thing. I'd like to. Grad school is a full-time job, so I think that you shouldn't expect that you're going to be able to have any kind of a part-time gig while you're in grad school. Grad school is a full-time job, and I think that treating this more like a medical student who treats, his residency is how you should think about it. It's a full-time commitment. Externship expectations are full-time. You will be in the school, 3 days a week for every moment that the teacher is there. So if school starts at 8, then you have to show up at 7:30, and if they get out at 2:30, then you stay till 3. And the same with the medical externship. You are there when the speech therapist is there so that you can get the real experience of what it's like to work in those settings and know what you want to do. We do have a fabulous externship coordinator who can help you navigate all of that. So you're not really expected to go out and find those all by yourself. We have a lot of sites that we already have contracts with and are set up with. And if you decide to go somewhere where we don't have that set up, we'll help you work through the process.
So funding and tuition, we do have every year just the amount of GA positions that we're able to offer just depends on the funding we get every year. But we did have this past year, I think it was five we were able to offer GA positions. And those are 20-hour a week GA positions, and those are offered upon admission. So the admissions committee will say, these are the students we want to admit into the program, and then these are the students that we've chosen to have the GA position. So those letters would come to you simultaneously. The Lily White Scholarship, again, how many students we can offer this to depends on the funding. The past couple of years, it's been 2 students, and it does cover tuition and fees for your first year in the program. As Dr. Ukrainitz had mentioned, there is outreach funding, which has been slashed a lot just this past year. But I think our students got about $2,000 overall this past year. And that funding comes through a grant, but it's tied to a contract as well that you would sign if you decided to accept the funding. That is subject to change, but as of right now, for every year the student accepts the funding, they then have to work in the schools for a year as well. So if you accept it for 2 years, you have to work for 2 years in the schools. And again, that can be subject to change. That's just how it's been the past couple of years. The LISL funding, students that are chosen by our deaf education program director to be in that LISL program that Dr. Ukrainitz had touched on, do get funding, so extra funding. And then we do have department scholarships, we have college scholarships, and there's university-wide scholarships, and all of those are housed in a program here called Scholarship Universe. So if you're accepted to the university, you could just hop into Scholarship Universe, enter in your information, and it tells you every scholarship that you're eligible for. So that's a little bit about funding. Application information, GRE not required. My mouse go. GRE is not required any longer. The prereqs are a bachelor's degree in communicative disorders or equivalent. This is just coursework that you would need: speech and language development, phonetics, anatomy, etc. The 4 foundational courses that ASHA requires. So you don't need to have all of these completed to be admitted into the program. It is wise to have most, if not all, of them completed before you enter into the program because you would have to do them along with your graduate coursework if you didn't. But you can take whichever of these you need while you're in the program. Again, you just have to balance it with that heavy graduate coursework and clinic time. When can I apply? Applications are open now and they're due January 15th. How competitive is it to get in? Last year for the campus-based program, we had about 100 applications for 20 spots. So it's pretty competitive. And then is an interview required as part of the admissions process? It is now. Just this past year, the admissions committee and faculty, all of our faculty, decided to do an interview as part of the admissions process. And how that works is that all of the students, so the admissions committee gets together and says, out of all of these students that applied, these are the ones that we want to move forward with. And that next step in the application process is that interview. It's a very short interview. I think it's 5 to 10 minutes, just rapid fire. It's one day. We get all the students done in one day. And then from there, the admissions committee says, from these students that we've interviewed, these are the ones that we want to admit to the program. And if you're admitted to the program, you would be getting, or if you're chosen to go to the next step to the interview process, you'd be getting more information from myself about what that's going to look like and just how that's going to be set up for you that day. And so, Dr. Ukrainis, I think this is you.
There we go. Okay, what can I be doing now to prepare for program and classes? I mean, you're all of you who will be out there are either have graduated and are out there in the world thinking about you want to come back to graduate school, or you're in your senior year of your undergrad. And so if you're in your senior year, that's the more traditional route in, and I'm sure you've had a lot of guidance already on how to be a good student, be active in the community, maybe active in your student association. If you have opportunities to work in research labs, that's a good idea. The application, well, I think that we'll get to that as little. I have to think about the slides, our order of them here. But that's about it, is just start getting prepared to be able to show the admission committee that you are someone that stands out from the crowd in a positive way, and that you would have the makings to do well in graduate school and become a speech pathologist who does us proud out there in the world. So I have there beyond grades, research assistant, being a speech pathology assistant, experiences with kids and seniors. So just if you teach kids swimming lessons, if you're a CNA, anything that it shows that you know how to work with people and have good people skills, that you know about child development. We've got their NISLA for student leadership opportunity and other student leadership opportunities. What are some experiences? Okay, that's basically what I'm telling you there. What you want to do when you're preparing your letter of intent and your application for us, we'd like to see what competencies you have. So not just, oh, here's my letter that says these are all the things that I have done in my life or that are relevant, but here's what I gained from them, or here's a strength of mine. I'm really good at time management, and this is how I balanced all these time demands. And I'm really good at working with people, working in teams. If you're thinking about what can I offer that shows that I would be good in both graduate school and as a speech pathologist, which is very much a people profession, a verbal, oral profession, and at the same time, it's a sciencey profession. So you can see Sophie nodding. Yep, we got to do a lot of science stuff as well as be able to handle people and interact with people. So just a few things for you to think about for any grad school application. Okay.
Yeah, so we have Sophia, we have Kirsten, and I saw Tessa hopped in as well after we did introductions. But if hopefully all of you wouldn't mind just telling us your experience coming here from undergrad, why you think USU is a good choice, and any tips you want to share for incoming freshmen, that would be great. Freshmen. I guess they would be graduate freshmen, but first years.
Okay, I can share first. I love Utah State's program, and I was the perfect person for that task to talk about this because I love Utah State. I've been so impressed by the professors and the experience that I've had here. I did my undergrad at BYU, and I was nervous about applying to grad school because I felt like I didn't have all the boxes checked off. Like Dr. Ukranitz was saying, like I felt like, oh, I didn't like work with kids with autism, or I wasn't an I didn't do research in undergrad. But what Dr. Ukranitz was saying was I did some other things where I worked with people, and the experience that I had I could bring into grad school. So if you're worried about applying because you feel like, well, I don't know, you're comparing yourself to other people, or you're feeling like, I don't know if I have all these boxes checked off, think about what experiences you've had. Think about the times that you've worked with a variety of people and worked with goals and helped people solve problems and worked with a team, because that's what we're looking for in a program like this, where people can work together and you can genuinely care about people's progress. And that's one thing that I love about Utah State's program, is that I have felt as a student that the professors have been very genuine in helping me progress as a clinician. So I'm a big fan, and I think that Utah State is an awesome choice.
And so,
Especially, yeah,
can you just tell us how you have done the outreach at the same time as
yes.
grad school?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, especially with the outreach program. So right now I'm in a speech room at an elementary school, and I've been able to work as a speech technician the last year and a half or so. And I have loved having experience. Like I went to class last year, I went to class in the morning and then went straight to work all the rest of the day. And I was able to apply everything that I learned in the morning to class or to work that day. So it's been awesome. I am a big fan, and I have really liked working with my supervisors both in the district, and then we have a Utah State supervisor that observes us during the week too. So we get a lot of supervision, like Jamie was saying, just like the clinic.
And Sophie did do her medical in the summer, her medical externship. So she's prepared both on the medical, even though she's extra prepared on the educational side.
Yeah, I loved medical too. I was able to work in the Logan Regional Hospital in their outpatient neuro rehab clinic, and it was awesome. So
Are we just answering the first question right now?
Just
Sorry.
go for it, Kirsten. What would you like to tell us?
Go for it. Okay. So as a campus cohort member, um, so I had a kind of a fun experience. I agree with Sophie. I love my supervisors. Like Jamie, if you get Jamie as a supervisor, I'm gonna embarrass Jamie right now because she is my saving grace. She has been so helpful for me. I actually have a unique experience where I've had some family stuff, and Jamie and the other professors and supervisors at Utah State have been very understanding of like my family situation and some of the health stuff going on with them. Like obviously I still have to do the work and I still have to be present, but they are some of the like they actually care. Like that's one of the biggest differences I've seen from undergrad, and I went to BYU for my undergrad as well. And then I came here to Utah State for my grad. But they really do care about you as people, and they care about your progression, and they are there for you to help you. And so I've just felt nothing but support from especially the clinic supervisors that first year when you're in the Utah State Clinic. They're there for you, they're available, and I guess that would be one of my tips is if you do get into grad school at Utah State, do not be afraid to ask questions. They're not going to think you're dumb. They're not going to think like, why is she asking me this question? She should already know this. Um, like they want you to learn and you don't know what you don't know. So if you do get in, be sure to ask questions because that's going to really make a difference on whether you actually learn stuff and are able to apply it with clients or if you just learn book smarts. And when you get to this level, you don't just need book smarts. Like Dr. Ukrainitz and Dr. Meekum and Sophie were saying, like you need to be able to work with people and to apply things and apply knowledge. And I feel like Utah State has really helped me be more than just a book learner. I am a person learner, and I've learned how to work with people in a very professional way as a speech language pathologist. So it's been an amazing experience for me as well.
And we always want to encourage you, even in the book part of it. Kirsten was never afraid to ask a question.
I was never afraid to ask a question. That is true.
And it was great. I loved it because anytime she was asking, it was usually something that half the class didn't understand either. And so she was always bold and ready to get out there and stick her neck out, answer something, ask a question. And we really encourage that too, even in the book learning classes.
And then Tessa hopped on just right after we did introductions. Tessa, thanks so much for being here. Did you have something to add?
Yes. Well, first off, sorry I was a little late. I was coming from my school placement. So then I was like, yes, I also love it here at Utah State. I did my undergrad here as well, and I have just absolutely loved it. Um, First thing that I feel like I just love about Utah State is how many opportunities there are. You know, they talked about the outreach program, the LISL program, graduate assistantships, and the fact that we have three externships, which not every school has. A lot of them just have two, like the medical and the education one, right? Like in the schools. And that's something that I really loved is that opportunity to kind of dive into a third externship and you get to choose it. And that's really cool to me. So that's one thing. I'm also in the LISL program and I have loved that. So if you have any interest in working with really young kids who have, here's my plug, who have hearing loss, the program of LISL and the speech path program here at Utah State are really, really good at working together too. That was something I was worried about because they're two separate entities and balancing all the time, but it has been the greatest experience for me and I would not change it for the world. I agree with Sophie and Kirsten though, that the professors and supervisors are very, very understanding, very kind, and very supportive. I just feel like I've had this overwhelming feeling of that everyone wants us to succeed. And that's really pushed me to not be afraid to ask questions and not be afraid to make a mistake. I used to be someone who would try to answer questions before like they called on me because I hate being called on. And so, but I feel like even being called on now, I would feel comfortable answering even if I had no idea what was happening because the support's there. And that's huge. Same with it within our cohort. And I know it's going to be a different cohort, obviously, but I feel like the staff does a really good job of fostering like this support and love so that the cohort kind of does the same thing. And then just, I guess I've learned so, so much. If you don't know some of the professors here at Utah State, which I didn't know how awesome our professors were entirely until kind of coming into this program. Dr. Ukrainitz, the Gillums, like you will hear their names everywhere. And they have written so many books that are just amazing. And I didn't know quite how well known Dr. Ukrainitz is here until kind of coming into grad school and realizing that everybody knows her because she knows so much. And so the quality of education you get here with those professors is amazing. Yeah, so just I guess little tips here. I would agree, get involved as much as you can, but don't be afraid to hype yourself up, right? Whatever you have done, whatever skills you do have, utilize those and talk about how they're relevant. And then be willing to put yourself out there and advocate for yourself is something that I would say. Because I did research in undergrad and I was a TA because I asked for them. And I went up and I said, "Hey, I want to do this. How can I do it?" And I would very strongly kind of give that as a tip as well. Don't be afraid to ask for opportunities wherever you are so that those can go on your application. So, yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Um, this is my information. As I said, I'm the graduate program coordinator slash graduate advisor. That is my email. Absolutely any questions, any concerns, please email me. I'm happy to help. I also help through the admissions process. I help facilitate, and so I kind of have an insight. I can answer questions. So please email me. And then now we're just at our Q&A. So if you have any questions that we didn't answer, that you want to ask our faculty here, you want to ask our students, you want to ask me, I'm also monitoring the chat. If you want to put them in the chat, I'm happy to read them out loud. Or yeah, just go ahead and unmute and ask us.
If we have, how about here's something. So if some of you are out of state, we are primarily, it seems like we get a lot of BYU and USU students. We get a few University of Utah students. But we also have a few brave souls who want to try a new place to be. And so we get a few from the West Coast or the East Coast. And as Kirsten mentioned there, we've got a very caring cohort. And so if you are new to our state and trying to get things figured out, your buddies in your program will help look after you and get you to know how things work in Utah, get you some winter clothes if needed. Come have an adventure here if you are tuning in from out of the state.
And
And I have a, oh,
I was gonna say I'm from out of state too, so happy to happy to help there.
I just had a plug-in going off what Dr. Ukraine had said. Um, your cohort is like your support system through better or worse. They are the people you cry with, the people you laugh with, the people that you are up to midnight with in the note room, doing homework with. So if you do have the privilege to get into the program, I would highly suggest remembering just you're in this together. It's not as competitive as it is in undergrad. You're not competing for a spot somewhere. You're not competing to be the best or to be, I mean, you get, if you get in, you already know you're super awesome. But the really thing, the big thing that's like made at least the difference for our cohort, I don't know if I can speak for you, Tessa and Sophia, but like we are all so tight. Like we love each other. I love the guts out of every single person in my cohort, and I have felt so supported by them. And like that will make the biggest difference in your grad school program. And USU fosters that kind of environment where you can have that kind of relationship with your cohort. So that would be another tip I'd have. Just remember your cohort or your people, and they're there for you. And it creates an amazing experience.
We had a couple questions in the chat here. Somebody asked, what is a GA position? Dr. Ukrainitz, do you want to dive
Oh,
into
yeah.
that a
So
little bit?
Mason said GA. So that stands for graduate assistantship. And so that's if you if you were offered and you choose to accept a graduate assistantship, then you're generally doing research with a professor. You're helping the person in their lab. Um, in our program, you're generally not teaching. You might do a guest lecture or do part of a lecture or something for a professor. You might help with a little bit of the grading for their undergraduate class. Tessa mentioned being a TA, a teaching assistant. So that's more of our undergrads actually work on helping in our online classes, like Tessa. So the graduate assistant is mainly about working in a professor's lab. And that actually links into we also have our most students are what we call Plan C students. So their coursework and clinical education. And then at the end, their comprehensive capstone experience is what we call a comprehensive exam where, however, there are a few students who may choose that they really want to do a thesis project. And we call it a thesis project because it's not quite a full-on thesis because you're so busy doing clinical education. So it's what we call the Plan B route, but it does allow you to work really closely with a professor on one project or part of one of their larger research projects. So there is the opportunity. Usually we only get maybe 1 to 3 students a year who choose to do the Plan B, and the general route is the Plan C comprehensive exam route. So those are 2 opportunities. The graduate assistantship, unfortunately, it is hard in terms of how many hours are expected. When Professor Meekum was saying that um, your grad program is a full-time job, it is, and we used to have the control to be able to split our graduate assistantships and do 10 hours and give twice as many out. And that was much better for everybody, for you, for the students, for us professors. But the university, in their infinite wisdom, decided we couldn't split them up anymore. And so now we have fewer of them to give out, and each student has to be able to get like 18 hours or so a week working with a professor. But these aren't like having a job off campus. These are flexible. They're they're on campus. Sometimes you can be analyzing data or transcribing remotely. Sometimes, if you're doing a thesis project, it fits within that graduate assistantship. So some of that can count as your work hours. So there's ways of making it manageable, even though it is an awful lot of hours a week.
Then we had a couple more questions. I think I can answer them, but obviously feel free to hop in with more information if I'm missing. Are scholarships open now? Should I start applying for those even though I haven't been accepted yet? I do too. I do think they're open now, and I do think that there are a few scholarships that you can apply to as a student that has applied to our program.
Mason, is that now with Scholarship Universe? My understanding is once you apply to the program, if you apply to Scholarship Universe, they will match you with any scholarship you're qualified for. And it may be a little different for some of our scholarships. Mason knows the details of that, but you don't have to apply individually for every scholarship. Like in the olden days when Professor Meekum and I were students, we had a big binder we'd look through and files looking for where were scholarships we could apply for. And now it's sort of like they do the reverse. They look at all the applicants and say, oh, these ones would fit you. And you don't even know you're being considered for a good number of them.
Yes, you just put in your information and it tells you everything that you're eligible for. It's just a matter of whether they need an A number or not to get in. But I do think there are scholarships that students can apply to prior to getting into the program. So I would hop into Scholarship Universe. You could just Google Scholarship Universe USU. I'm not sure of the exact link. And hop in there and look around for sure. And then how many people are in the Lissel cohort and in the traditional cohort? The traditional cohort, we accept 20 for the on-campus program. And then I think there were 5
Yeah.
SLP Lissel students. Okay, I thought that was what Dr. Nelson aimed for. So 5 SLP Lissel students.
And can I just say, Mason, those 5 come from the 20
Yes.
on campus.
Oh, thank you for that distinction.
It's not an additional, it's not an additional 5. So if you want to be in Lissel, you would apply for the on-campus program and then put on your application that you're interested in the Lissel program.
But you need to make clear you really are interested in it. If it looks like it's just an add-on of, oh, I think that'd be fun, or I'd like the funding, Dr. Nelson's not interested in taking on students unless they really are committed to getting that extra education in young children who are deaf and hearing impaired.
And can I also add, just be careful of that, because if you are interested in the Lissel program, it's just on the normal USU application for SLP grad school, but it's just are you interested? So don't miss that, because I knew several people who missed that and were panicked, and it was a whole ordeal. So if you're interested, look for it and make sure to click it.
And then address it in your personal statement.
Yes, exactly everything I was going to say. So thank you. It is just to be in the Lissel program, you have to get into the SLP program. So as Tessa said, just make sure, and Dr. Ukrainitz, make sure you note it on your application, make sure you talk about it in your personal statement.
And the same with the outreach. You want to make clear that you're interested in the outreach program. And yes, you could be considered for both, but we're looking at, are you really situated in a school district? We do, it's not required, but it's definitely preferred that if you have a letter of support from a school district who's already employing you, it cannot, sometimes it doesn't work well if you are just saying, oh, I'm just going to have a job in the fall with a school district, and you don't even know if you will, you're trying to handle this new SLT job, how to do all of that while you're going to grad school. Um, and so you've got a better chance of getting into the outreach and being successful in it if you are already employed as an SLT and you have a school district on board who's willing to write a letter of support for you.
So that actually goes right into our next question. Somebody had asked if I started an SLT position in January, could I still apply to the outreach program? Absolutely. You could get a job the day before you enter into the program, but as Dr. Ukrainitz had said, it's it's better if you have that job, you're already in that job, you have that letter of support that you submit with your application. So yes, January would be plenty of time. Get that letter of support in with your application and you're good to go.
And you would know how to be an SLT, so you wouldn't be learning how to do that at the same time as going to school.
And then last question we have here, what parts of the application are weighed most heavily? And what are tips to stand out when applying in the interview process?
There's an admission committee and it's composed of multiple members. So there's not a formula. We can't tell you which part matters the most. We might have said the GRE, but we don't have the GRE anymore. So even if we loved that measure, it's gone. So we're trying to look across your transcripts. It's not just overall GPA. The committee will look in there and look at how you did in your coursework. If you had if I don't know, like your first degree was in biochemistry and then your second degree was in ComD, the admission committee may be very interested in you, thinking, oh boy, that one could be a really strong sciencey person. So the admission committees go inside the transcripts and look beyond the overall GPA. And then, of course, there's your letter of intent and what it reveals about you and then your letters of recommendation. And you want to choose them from professors who can speak about you more than she was in my class and she got an A. What we do expect is there's three required, and we would say don't do more than one that's a professional one. So you'd have two from academic sources, and then maybe you have one that's from a profession that's related to what we're doing. But again, that person should be able to speak to more than she showed up every day on time, and they should be able to speak more about how you have competencies that will help you be successful. If you've been out of school for a long time, and maybe you've been working as an SLT for a few years, or you're a teacher, some people change careers. It can be challenging to get those academic recommendation letters, but you're going to have to figure out, hopefully you made enough of a mark, you can reach back to those professors, or that you've had some coursework recently that you can reach to those professors for writing you the recommendation letters. But remember, if you've been out for a while, you've done all kinds of amazing things in your life. So again, a bit like where Sophie and Tessa and Kirsten were talking about looking at the things you've done in a different light. Look at your own personal life accomplishments for what they make, how they make you stand out and special.
And that
I have a
advice.
question.
Oh, sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
well, so I'm an online student in St. George, and so most people in my situation, I'm older, I'm back in school, I graduate in December, and I'm a single mom, and so most people in my situation have done like an online SLP program. So I'm just kind of wondering if this, just an opinion, kind of. Um, is this a possibility at all? It sounds a little bit like maybe if I do the outreach program, because I'm raising a child still, so I have to work. I have to have some income. So just curious if this could be a possibility for me.
If you could find an SLT position, it's hard because you do have to look at your life and say, is this the right time to be going to grad school? But yeah, if you had an SLT position in the St. George area, and there are positions there, you have to have a master's level speech pathologist who can supervise you well enough and guide you in the
Mhm.
education with it. Be careful when you see programs that are called online, or even fully online in ASH's info, because they're often not fully online. It's you can't become a doctor or a speech pathologist just with online courses. You need the human
Mm.
interaction and guidance. So even the programs that say they're fully online are they're going to have you have to find your clinical externships where you're located, and they have to be with people who are qualified and able to give you a good education. So, and there's pluses and minuses with online or in person, but just be aware that the online are delivered in many different ways. They can be very expensive sometimes,
Mm.
and not ours. Ours is not. We don't even claim it's an online program, but
Mhm.
ours is flexible delivery.
So are you saying, because I am a speech para right now, so if I got hired on as an SLT here, I could be an outreach
Yeah, you
somehow?
need your district would need to be willing to support you through the process,
Mm.
and you do have to come to campus for the first summer. So
Hmm.
we can get our eyeballs on you. It's really important for us. We really care about producing really qualified folks, and we need to start you off in the summer. So, but we also will work with you on figuring out childcare. And I mean, we've had speech path students who've carted their kids up for the summer, and
Mm.
Logan's a really fun place for people to be in the summer. And so there's ways of dealing with the summer, and there are many parents who in both
Mm.
outreach and campus who have been successful in the program.
We've had quite
Nice.
a few students from St. George in
Oh,
our outreach program in the time that I've been here. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, we
Nice.
could
And
probably, even get you the name of someone if you wanted to talk to someone about how they did it
mm,
from that far away.
nice. Well,
But
and
it's
funny
definitely
enough,
doable.
my oldest daughter is in grad school in Logan right now. So
You could be a roommate for the summer.
I know I probably could. Well, thank you.
There's no more questions in the chat. Did anyone else have any other questions for us?
I have a quick question. Sophie, who did you talk to about the outreach? Like, did you talk to the school, district, secretary person, or who did you reach out to ask about that?
Like to get a job with the
Mm-hmm.
district. I reached out to these district speech coordinators are usually the best people to talk to. Um, the district that I work for had two speech coordinators, so I just emailed them and I asked if they were hiring. You can look on district websites, but I thought it was useful just to go straight to somebody that could give me immediate answers. And some of them directed me just to the district website and said apply here. And some of them said the application isn't open now, but it will open on this specific date. And so I knew kind of when to be looking for it. And a lot of school districts hire more in the spring. So they could give you more information about that.
Thank you.
And if you're looking at outreach, I think, you can apply to several school districts and find that SLT job. You know, we do give preference to more rural school districts. So, if you're looking at Box Elder, Tooele, places that are really underserved, they also get preference over like Salt Lake City School District, who they have a lot of people there. So we're looking to be able to provide these services to underserved communities. So if you can find a job in, a smaller district, maybe a little bit more rural district that is in real need, that also helps.
I had a question. Um, it's been about um 3, 4 years, well, 2 years since I was in undergraduate classes and I did the online ComD degree. And so, in regards to the two academic letters of recommendation, would it be worth it to take another course and get involved with an instructor there, whether it's within USU or another course outside of USU?
I would just reach back to those professors. I mean, the ones here, they're used to writing so many letters and they keep their records. And hopefully, they'll pull up how did you do in their class, and it hopefully there'll be something there that will help remind them of you. It is harder for the online students because you're not a presence in the room like the campus students. But even so, the our online instructors are used to having to do this. So if it's been just a couple of years, I'm sure that if you reach out to them, you'd be okay. You'd be able to get two of them.
I have a question that, oh, sorry. I have a question that kind of goes along with that because I'm an online student. And so, like, when it comes to academic letters of recommendation, I was just curious, like, if you have any, like, tips for, making those as good as they can be, even though, like, there's some disconnect due to being, like, online.
I'd say that if you're doing the online classes, participate, be noticeable in a positive way in your class, so that your instructor knows your name and knows your work apart from the other masses of students in your class. Um, and you could even reach out to them to see if you could set up a time to talk to them about the profession or something like that so that they could get to know you a little bit and you could get to know them. I mean, we don't want to deluge them with 150 students trying to talk to them, but the vast majority will not anyway. So if you just take those extra steps to be noticed in a positive way.
Awesome, thanks.
We have one last question. Oh, did I freeze? We have one last question, and then we are at time. Do the academic letters of recommendation need to be from ComD instructors specifically?
Not specifically. It's mainly that they can speak to, again, your academic learning. Hopefully it's in courses. Well, I don't know. I mean, if you had a chemistry instructor and you did several classes with that person and you worked in their chemistry lab, my goodness, we'd be pretty excited about that. So you definitely don't you want to get one or two preferably from ComD. But if you have someone who can speak to your competencies from other fields, definitely go with that.
One of my letters of recommendation was from my public health professor
Mhm.
and from my undergrad. So, and obviously it worked for me, but,
Yep.
but yeah, so for what that's worth.
It's worth a lot, Kirsten.
All right. And I've just been responding to a couple of people in the chat. They did ask if there was an email that they could email with more questions, and I went ahead and put my email in there. So if you have further questions or if any come up, my email's in the chat, email's on the website. I'm happy to help. And thanks so much for being here with us today and having so many good questions for us.
And you can go, Mason can funnel you. So just go to Mason, and then if you have
Absolutely.
some specific needs, she'll say, okay, I'll get you in contact with someone else in the department. So start with Mason.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks again, everyone. Have a good night.